Good evening, everybody. My name is Fernanda Parra, and today I'm going to be presenting my task 3 activity, which is debating. And today we're going to be talking about, are adults better language learners than children? Is it true? Is it false? So that's what I'm going to be debating about today. So I would like to start that there is this huge conception in society that it is more difficult for adults to learn languages than it is for children. And it is also a conception in the world that adults are not very interested in language learning, so they leave it for the next generation and they don't have to do with language learning. But there are many countries in the world that have studied these cases and that have gotten into the topic to find out what is really happening with adults learning. So this is the case of the UK. In the UK, there have been some surveys, and I want to mention some of them. They are the EU, they are the NIACE and the NOP service that show that adults are currently more interested into language learning than before. And there are more adults that are becoming interested in the topic as time goes by. So it is not as usual as it was before that an adult was not interested into language learning, and that's what we're gonna discuss today. There are some reasons why adults are getting more involved into this topic, and this has to do with adults having a stronger knowledge. So why are adults better learners? Because they get to the class or they get to the sessions having a stronger knowledge. They have a backup. They have backup information that they have filed for many years of their lives due to some circumstances, studies, universities, college, high schools, primary schools. They have gone through all of these processes to get to a point where they have a real good backup baggage that they can use as information. So it's important to say that this information or this backup is not gained in a day or in a year. This has to do with experience, and it has to do with having lived a lot of situations in the life. So in this case, this is something that children cannot achieve. Why? Because they don't live specifically for that. They haven't lived for that long. So they haven't had many experiences. And this is something that we can't deny. Adults are more experienced than children. Therefore, they have a greater baggage of information before they enter a class. So it's easier for a teacher to prepare activities, talk about situations, talk about real scenarios, because adults are already related to this information or to these topics, right? Another important thing is that when we have an adult in class, or when there is an adult in class, there are certain modes of thinking and memory capacity and imitation capability or imitation abilities that children do not have. Mainly because, as I mentioned before, they haven't lived many things on this earth. So it's easier for the teacher to communicate with adults, to let them know about the idea that they are trying to express, to explain situations, comparing to real situations or real life scenarios. They can do comparison, they can compare, they can also memorize a lot of things. So it becomes easier for them to understand what the teacher is trying to say. This is difficult for children since they have difficulties trying to understand many scenarios in real life, and they don't see themselves in those scenarios since they haven't had the opportunity to go through that. So there are many things that children can miss on due to this situation, due to just lack of experience. Another important thing is that adults have a need. It's important to understand that adults need to learn languages for some reason. It could be that the job is requesting learning, language learning, or maybe they want to do it because they want to fulfill their dreams. They want to travel abroad, they want to study a career, they want to get into a group of people, they want to be accepted into a group of people. They do have a need. Whereas the children are not, they don't have a specific need, or they might not have it in most of the cases. They are just there because their parents, their dad or their mom wanted them to study because they know that it's best for them. So they want to encourage them to learn and to practice a new language because it's best for them. But it's not that these students themselves, the students themselves, they don't really understand what is the need of learning a new language. But in the case of adults, they do have a need. And in this globalized and modern world, every day new jobs have more criteria for becoming a bilingual person or multilingual person even. So there is a criteria going on and getting more and more advantages every day. So it's easier for you to grow as a professional and to grow as a in your finances or in your intellectual capacities if you get to know another language, right? So that's something that is a strength for adults. Now, as Long said, or as Long view it, job really influentiates learning language in adults. It's not uncommon for us to know people that are learning languages just because they need it for their job. It's important that we understand, as I was telling you before, that adults do have a need, and they are conscious of this need and they recognize it. So it's easier for us as teachers to give a class to an adult since they are more responsible, they are more capable, and they push themselves further to reach their goals, the goals that they have set for themselves, for their job, for their profession, etc. Now, another important thing is that adults have higher level of awareness, language awareness. They are better at grammar, they have more literacy, they have more complex concepts, understanding or conceptions, and they have an understanding of their need. So since they already speak a language, they already know how to speak in their own language, they understand grammar better. Usually adults are better grammar students, right? So they can compare some of their, some of the grammar in their native language, they can compare it to their second language or third language or new language that they are learning. But of course, there are some things that are not so good and some limitations that adults might evidentiate through their learning process. And one of these situations is that since learning languages or learning a new language has to do with job and profession, it might become a burden or it might become something tiring that they don't really want to do. They just want to get more money and do what's best for their life, but they don't really have a desire or a wish to learn a language. So languages can become a burden in these cases. And it can also be a luxury for a lot of people. Not all of people have access to it. So it can become a luxury for them. This is set by law. So in these cases, when it has become a luxury or a burden for an adult, it is difficult for teachers to reach those students. It's difficult for them to help them in their learning process. It is also difficult for adults to practice pronunciation or to acquire the language quickly. They need more time to process all of the sounds and all of the rules. They need some time to change their mind about a lot of things or a lot of concepts, which doesn't happen in kids. Children don't have rules in their heads as strong as adults, so they don't need to change much. They can learn new things without having mental confrontations or grammar confrontations in their mind, right? That's something that is difficult for adults. But in these cases, activities and methodology and styles learning, all of these need to go hand on hand or hand by hand with the teacher. The teacher needs to learn about the character of the students. The teacher needs to learn about their profession, their needs, their characteristics in order to help them avoid inhibition, avoid shame, avoid low self-confidence. In order to do that, the teacher will need to study a lot about the character of their students. But if the teacher gets involved with most methods or learning styles and new instruments and tools, it will be okay. They're going to be able to get to a great point. And there are even people that started learning a new language when they were too old, and they are now able to speak these languages as if they were studying this language far before or far younger, when they were younger. So in conclusion, of course, there are many things that are limitations for adults. It is somehow a little bit more difficult for them in certain areas of the learning process, but they own capabilities and advantages that children do not have, and it will take them many years to reach them. It will take them a lot of practice, a lot of experience to reach some advantages that adults have already. So in these cases, adults are definitely best learners than children, or better learners than children. But this doesn't mean that they learn or they speak better languages. This definitely depends on the person, on the situation, on the country, on the experience that they have with language. It doesn't mean that a child or an adult would speak better language or better English or better any language in the world. This is a situation when learning is easier for adults than for children. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I'll be looking forward to hear back from you and your comments. Thank you, and bye-bye. You have a great day.